Welcome back, everyone. This is the Predictive Playbook at Manny's Irish Pub. I am your host, John Ryan, and I will be joined shortly by my co-host, Rob Veno, who was out of town last week. Be interesting to catch up with him, see how the Chicago White Sox Stadium is, relatively new one, and also my other co-host, Tony Finn, both of WagerTalk, and they are finishing up some other shows and will be joining me in just a few minutes. I did want to talk about the PGA, and again, thanks to the guys that I have on the show that are experts in the field. David Behrman of ESPN, Deputy Editor of Sports Content at ESPN, and our very own Nick Borman of WagerTalk, and he's also a soccer guru as well. So between the two of them, I've been able to, I guess the word is eclecticize and come up with some really great lineups of late. Yesterday, notwithstanding 34th out of 58,000 plus entries in the Travelers, had Harris English. And, I wish it would have been a little bit better because those overtime holes would have been a lot. And there's a big difference between the points awarded for first and second. So that would have moved it up a little bit more, kind of into that higher rent type of district. But that is the best finish I have had to date in about the 7 years I've been doing this, or however long DraftKings has been around. It's been around a while. But anyway, it was pretty cool to see that, and just again, it's the analytics, machine learning stuff that I have, and then just keeping an open mind to what others are thinking. It's so important. You can't do this in a vacuum. You can't do it all by yourself. You can try it, but you're going to be a lot better as a handicapper. And if you're going to try to do this more than just as a hobby, it's imperative. So yeah, it was pretty good. I have to admit that was worth the price of admission for sure, to turn a $20 ticket into that kind of prize money. And I will be putting out PGA picks now because I'm been tweaking the models and really learning a lot of how to tweak the models to get the type of results specific to the course being played, the venue, recency, is it a major, all those factors. There's well over 400 of those factors that comprise the models and the predictive values. So yeah, it's all very good. And then big shout out here to the chat room with Chance Copperpot. Welcome to the show. I don't remember seeing his name, but we have new names every single day. And hello to everyone. So Chance says, watching the soccer match. It's 1:10 here in Portland. So my work got called off. Well, I guess it's bad that your work got called off, or maybe it's good. But what is the score, Chance? If you can hear me, I'd be interested to know what that is. In fact, I'll pull it up while you're telling us. Let's see here. Soccer scores. We have France 2-1 beating Switzerland. They're in the 66th minute of 90. Clearly I haven't watched the game, but based on the statistics, it looks like France is going to, this could easily be the final score, unless Switzerland scores. But in these matchups historically, as we discussed with Adam Trigger of Top Flight Sports in a video earlier today that you can check out now. It's archived for your viewing interests throughout the day and permanently. So in that show, we were talking about different ways to play this, and one was plus 850 that France would win in extra time, and that had a lot of value. We thought that still could happen here, but France is definitely the better team, hands down. And I do believe Adam's bet was +1 with Switzerland, so that would be a push right now, but still a lot of time left. There's 24 minutes left in regulation. So whatever happens between now and then, we'll keep you posted. But on to, let's see here. Let's see what else is going on here. And they scored those two within 5 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, France is a pretty good team, to say the least. Why don't we head over to the baseball here for a moment. And I did this on the Major League Baseball play of the day. And that's the NBA angle of the day. Yep, just give me 1 second here. I'll just, sometimes these things, the slides don't stay up on the, when I load them up for some reason, but we'll get it fixed here. This has to do with the Houston Astros tonight. They're minus 300, and I certainly don't recommend these types of situations, but they're in a really powerful one with that's augmented by the fact that Zach Greinke is on the hill and arguably playing the worst team in baseball, not named the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Baltimore Orioles, who are 30 games under 500. Houston is 18 games over 500. As we're getting closer and closer to the midway point, we have now 78 games by both of these teams being played, and obviously 81 is the halfway point. So you're going to bet on home favorites of minus 175 and greater coming off a game in which they did not have an extra base hit. And admittedly, it's very rare for Houston not to have an extra base hit in any game. So this particular angle, as simple as it is, has made the $100 better over $7,700 in the last 5 years for a terrific 16.4% ROI. That ROI is greatly reduced because you're laying big favorites here, and those favorites sometimes lose, and then that's the problem with it. But when you have a situation like this where the parameters are working so well together, it stands to reason that if you bet a 250 favorite, you'll overcome it in time. And this has only lost twice consecutive games over this 5-year period. So it's even more powerful actually to take it into a subsystem of the system. So when this particular set of parameters would lose the last time it was qualified, it's never gone more than 2 games. So it becomes more likely that the situation is going to win the next time. But the important factor is not to get excited about that situation and go ahead and bet more money or double your bet size just because of that fact. You have to do the same amount every single time, every single day, every single event where this becomes active. Now, if this home favorite is 200 or more and facing a struggling opponent like the Orioles are, with a win percentage below 40% on the season, the record is 55-15 for 79% winning bets over the last 5 seasons. All adds up to what you would think is Houston cruising to a fairly easy win tonight. It's always a bit nervous when a line is minus 300, and the run line is probably a consideration here for sure. It's minus 145, 150. Which is a little bit on the cheaper side, but that is probably a good way to go too. You could take, you can almost make a bet 75% on the run line of your normal amount, and then, excuse me, and then 25% on the money line. That way, if you would get hosed and Houston would only win by 1, it's gonna be 0, neither profit nor loss. But it also reduces the overall risk. If Houston would somehow lose at minus 300, that is, just never a good thing. So I kind of like being conservative here. The combination of the run line and the money line. The run line also does well in this particular system. Not near as well as the money line. So take that into consideration. This is something, at minus 300, you probably want to, do, a little pizza money, or maybe just a half unit, maybe 1 unit max, and get a feel for the system, because I never like recommending these large favorites at all. But we have Rob Veno with me here backstage, so it'll be good to get him back on the show here, and there he is. How was your weekend, Rob? I knew you were out there in the Midwest in South Chicago. Probably heard a lot of good jazz. Maybe you went to a baseball game or two?
We were in right on Michigan Avenue, more Cubs territory than White Sox, but the weather was pretty tough over the weekend, John. Tornadoes in Chicago and the suburbs. A lot of rain while I was there. The Chicago White Sox game Saturday was suspended. Or the Carlos Rodon game Friday night maybe was suspended because of the tornado sighting. So they had to shut it down, and it rained Saturday. So didn't get to the ball game. But believe me, found a lot of great places. Actually, the hotel I was staying at was that was where a lot of the 43 invitees to the NBA draft combine were staying. So a lot of the college
Oh
kids
wow,
that are
cool.
entering the draft and high school kids were, milling about, especially at nighttime when the NBA games were on. You could find in the lounge just groups of these kids just sitting around watching the game. And then early in the day when they were on their way to either have interviews or participate in drills. I think there were 5-on-5s were going on when we left, wherever the location was for the combine. But yeah, to see all those guys, one of your favorites, Oral Roberts. We got a little,
Oh yeah.
glimpse of Max Asmus for Oral Roberts, shooting guard, who, boy, size-wise, he kind of reminds you very much of these shooting guards in the NBA that are making logo three-pointers now. Trae Young, Steph Curry, Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
Size-wise, he fits right in with those. But yeah, it went to a place where they filmed skits for Saturday Night Live that back in the 70s we'll remember the cheeseburger skits with John Belushi, and I think Dan Aykroyd was part of that. So that's kind of a famous place. There's a lot of history in Chicago, so we got to see a lot of stuff. I was with good friends, so went out to Wrigleyville, even though the Cubs weren't home. And I'd never been to Wrigley Field, John. I don't know if you have, but
One time.
Imagine it on game day, the amount of bars that are there. We started to drink in one and onto the other and onto the other, and it's like there's too many bars here. We got to stop because otherwise, that subway ride home gonna be a little tough. So yeah, it was fun though, and glad to be back home. Glad to be back with you. So hopefully we get some good results with the games here tonight. Saw a lot of
Yeah, it's good to have you back for sure. What was I going to say about Wrigley? I remember the old Comiskey. I haven't been to the new one, but that stadium was that old architecture where, depending on what kind of seat you got, you had a pole right in front of you, an iron, support grid, I-beam, and it would just block like half the field. And that was crazy. So you literally had to be careful when you bought tickets because you could easily tell if it was one of those seats because it was much cheaper than all the rest of them. But other than Wrigley, the only other stadium I've been to that really has that kind of character and appeal is Fenway. Mm-hmm. And if I know there was talk I guess it was very short-lived talk about 10 years ago. They were thinking of building a new stadium in Boston. That should actually be outlawed. They should just never consider building another one because there could never be another one like Fenway. You have center field there. There's that one corner that's it's almost 430 feet. I think 436 maybe. And you have all these nooks and crannies, and you got Pesky's pole. And if you hit it down the right field line, I guess it's about 260, 270. But it has to be right down the line. And it's just a tremendous venue. And the fans are great there, too. I'm sure it's different when the Yankees are in town. But, very, very knowledgeable fans. I can remember a game where we saw Josh Beckett pitching for the Red Sox against Toronto. It took 52 pitches to get through the first inning. Toronto was winning 8-0. About 10 rows in front of us, there was 4 guys, all friends, obviously, with Toronto jerseys on and standing up and clapping for their team. And what would have happened in like a Philadelphia venue. But up there, not one person said sit down, nothing. I'll never forget that. It was actually pretty cool. But like I said, I'm pretty certain the Yankee games are probably a little different. And how about them Yankees, actually? Can you? 6 in a row now, and Yeah, I was listening to Tony Finn on the MLB WagerTalk show a little bit,
Okay.
and his concern with Garrett Cole and wanting the even playing field, as he has repeatedly said. But he got shelled yesterday. I think it does it is a head scratcher because his spin rates are down, and it what else are you supposed to do? I mean, I'm not going to accuse the guy, but either he's hurt and he's not telling anybody, or he had some glue in the ball or something.
Right.
You have any feeling for the Yankees? I guess my question would be two-part. We have the ongoing question we started about a month ago, where their expected runs scored is so off the charts bad that they just cannot get the clutch hit. They went 0 for 10 against Kansas City the one game with runners in scoring position, and this whole series again. It's not like they're not getting on base, but when it comes time for the clutch hit, they're not getting it. And now there's kinks in the armor somewhat with the bullpen and the Garrett Cole situation. I mean, what's your whole take on them?
Yeah, I think Aaron Boone's take is the best. They better get straightened out quickly. That division's not slowing down for the Yankees, John.
No.
Over the weekend, Toronto got George Springer back in their lineup, and when you look at that lineup every day, and George Springer slid into the 5-hole, that's as dangerous a lineup as there is in Major League Baseball. And if they get any semblance of pitching, they're going to be a handful in that division. I'd imagine at the trade deadline, Toronto will be very active, both bullpen and starting, to try and shore some things up. Tampa Bay, even without Tyler Glasnow right now, continues to be atop of that division. And Boston is right there as well. So the Yankees, aside from the Orioles, they got trouble with everybody else in that division. Tonight they get a series against the Angels and a pitcher, a matchup against Dylan Bundy, who is so prone to allowing home runs that it should be favorable for the Yanks. However, they're throwing Michael King, who is just as favorable to the Angel lineup, and Shohei Ohtani. But they've really got to get going here. I mean, there's been some calls. You can see some calls for Aaron Boone's job. I don't know that clutch hitting with guys in scoring position is necessarily the manager's fault. I think, have the Yankees already fired the batting coach? I forget now if they fired hitting.
I thought they did.
Yes. I mean, that's a minor thing to do that and try and blame it on somebody else. But it's up to these guys that are getting paid unbelievably to hit the baseball that just aren't hitting the baseball.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, DJ LeMahieu had a nice game the other day, finally. He's not where he's been. Certainly. Aaron Judge, though, I did see, John, if you just take his Yankee Stadium history, is on pace to hit more home runs at a higher frequency than any other Yankee in Yankees history, which is amazing. So maybe he'll
it is.
couple here tonight. But Stanton made a lot of money for not a lot of reason, as we can see. Sanchez, Urshela, all these guys, they need to come together here and start performing on the offensive side of the field. Because, like you say, if Garrett Cole is not the ace that they thought they were getting, let's face it, they wasted a lot of money in Corey Kluber. It looks to be a waste of money with Corey Kluber, right? And all these things that they've tried not working. Boy, if Garrett Cole is another one that doesn't work. And Trevor Bauer, those seem to be the two poster boys, right? Garrett Cole and Trevor Bauer, the UCLA teammates, one calling the other out. And neither one. Trevor Bauer throws tonight, and you coached a lot of baseball. Just a basic pitcher's philosophy is nothing free and keep it in the yard. And when you walk guys and let them hit it over the fence, that's probably the worst combination for a pitcher that they could have. The fielders are not involved in any way, shape, or form, and you can't get outs. And Trevor Bauer right now, his walks and home runs allowed over the last 4 games are off the charts. So San Diego lit him up in his last start. We'll see. But, we saw one real quick here yesterday. I see Tony's with us now, but real quick, Hector Santiago gets thrown out yesterday, right? The first ejection. Seattle now has to play with a 24-man roster instead of a 25 for the next 10 days. And then the next inning, you see Jose Abreu take a fastball off the kneecap, and now he's down. So I wonder if that's going to be the response of teams who are sort of saying back to the other side, here's what you get for calling out my pitcher. Because that wasn't an umpire's inspection at the beginning of the inning, right? That was a team request, I believe, to go see Santiago
right.
and see what he had, you know? And so Seattle didn't take too kindly of it, and I just wonder if that's going to be the retaliation here. Well, if you want to get our guy ejected, then we'll take one of yours from you, too, because that injury, Abreu had to be lifted off the field. And the White Sox, for what it's worth, guys, you start looking at what they had penciled in for a starting lineup at the beginning of the season, including Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert and Nick Madrigal, and now you take Jose Abreu away from that mix as well. That's 4 guys out of a 9-man starting lineup that are gone now. Past Yohan Moncada, the 3-hitter in that lineup, I don't know. I looked ahead at that Twins-White Sox game when I woke up this morning because it was the first thought on my mind, and the Twins are hot right now, and they're an underdog here. I wouldn't be surprised if the Twins, you know, in their quest to move up those central standings, don't take advantage of what seems to be a battered White Sox everyday lineup right now.
For sure. Well, I'll tell you who's not battered. Tony Finn.
Be careful what you say, because I'm battered. I am battered. Twice battered.
Better syndrome or what?
Twice battered and then deep fried.
Yeah, I guess it sounds like a good song maybe.
Beer battered.
Country.
But I'll tell you, I was battered Saturday. Thought I had like one of these bets that I get off the models. I had the Phillies plus 220 against DeGrom. Top of the 8th, the Phillies score and take the lead. I'm looking genius-like. It was probably the first time I ever felt like Tony Finn does in my entire life. And you know what happened?
Yes, I do.
The Phillies added to their Major League Baseball leading blown saves category, recording number 20. Error, 2 walks. In fact, the Mets tied the game without a hit. And, of course, you know, when you have the bases loaded and there's 1 out and the game is tied and it's the bottom of the 9th, it's not likely it's going to go to the 10th. Unless you're the Diamondbacks or Orioles, maybe. But that was the first time I actually was like, oh, man. Because it would be so cool to win it. You know, plus 220s don't come along very often. And the fact that I had one and it actually was going according to plan. You know, no run support again for DeGrom. Phillies are chipping away. But, you know, the Phillies would be, if they could get that closer situation taken care of, and, you know, I guess Rob would have a pretty good spell on that, too. But the trade deadline is coming up July 31st. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be a lot of activity. You know, we were just talking about the Yankees, Tony, and I don't want to call it their woes, but they are definitely, I mean, it's almost, I did their salary per run. And Houston's salary per run. And Houston is almost 3 times as cheap per run. You know, it's a Moneyball thing for those that are trying to figure out what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. It is that payroll and that talent. And Rob Veno was absolutely right. You might have heard him say it because you were backstage. Aaron Judge is on a pace to hit more home runs at Yankee Stadium per number of at-bats than any Yankee in the history of the franchise, which is saying something. Yeah. But he's not even mentioned in the American League MVP races. You know, it's Guerrero. And I think if they were winning and they were, you know, not 6.5 games behind, his name probably would come up more. But
what is how many at bats? I don't have it in front of me. If you guys off the top of your head, how many at bats does Judge have?
I can pull that up for you. Just take me 1 second. Yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention too, now that George Springer is back in the lineup for Toronto.
Yeah. And
I'll run this query next. When he has a game where he had no hits,
yes, it's
pretty remarkable what happens next. And a lot of that was with Houston, but I don't think it really matters. He just rarely ever goes back-to-back games without a hit.
Springer, you mean?
Springer, right.
Okay. Yeah, well, they've moved him out. You know, now as I was listening, and as Rob said, they don't want to. The reason he's in the fifth hole is that the top of that order has been so productive as is. They didn't want to put him back at the top of the order. They didn't want to mess that up. So now Springer becomes a guy who was a run scorer and still did his share of contributing RBI. Now he becomes primarily an RBI guy from that spot, that fifth spot. You're depending on if the top of the order is status quo and does continue to produce as they've been producing. That's really, which surprised me a little bit, only because Major League Baseball players are kind of funny. Springer's not, he hasn't been with that team long enough that maybe he feels entitled, per se. But coaches are funny as well. I mean, we've talked about that with Doc Rivers, and who you were just talking about. It reminded me. You said something. Rob said something about somebody, and it reminded me of this. If maybe it's health. I don't know. If Simmons could only make a jumper, how good would Philly be? Well, if the Yankees could stay healthy, how good would they be? Because they haven't been able to stay healthy since they made that acquisition of Stanton, and then Judge was there. How many days do you think they've had those guys in the lineup together for more than a week on end? I don't know that they have. It's every time I turn around, one of those guys from that Yankee lineup is hurt, and not just day-to-day IL stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's and I also heard you talking about, did Kevin Long get fired again? No, I mean Kevin Long was fired in 16 or 17. I'm not sure they don't regret that. But long story short, the pitching coach right now for the Yankees is who?
The pitching coach there?
Thames, right? Is it Thames, or did Thames get fired?
I actually don't know, but
the hitting coach or the pitching coach?
The pitching coach. The hitting coach. I'm sorry. The hitting coach. Is Thames still the hitting coach? Or is he the new? I'm
going to say yes.
Okay. I think I hadn't heard. When I heard you say that, I started punching it up, and then I joined in, so I didn't finish. I was wondering what the situation was for that. But I read some and talked to some guys that didn't know Thames. And part of the problem, I'm not saying Thames is the problem, but the way that they say he addresses his job is it's not healthy, and I'm not sure it's productive. He says he's not sleeping. When he lays down, all he does is he tells, at least coach speak, okay, is that Thames says he's involved with every single pitch that his players are at the plate. And I'm telling you, that's thinking about that. Our jobs, even this time of year for me, I'll tell you that I've found myself the last couple of days sitting down somewhere on the couch, for instance, and waking up 2 hours later, sitting straight up, because what I used to be able to do was never sleep, and I don't sleep much, but it's gotten to the point where I'm thinking I'm going to make a few changes, because I'm not 31 anymore, dude. So I'm 61, and despite the fact that I still fall in that container of we arrogant, egotistical, and idiotic, stupid is a better word, men. We still think at 60 we can do what we did at 25. In fact, probably many of us will say we can do it better. That is as fairy tale as it gets. I would think you guys would probably agree.
Oh, without question. The mind wants to do what the body can't, Tone. That's
of course,
the situation. Right. Real quick, two things on what Tony just said. First off, it was the Mets. Chili Davis was fired by the Mets a month ago, so I got Yankees.
Right. But Thames is. But if you know Thames, he says he's involved in every pitch, guys. Every single pitch.
You shouldn't be.
It's fine and dandy to be involved in every single pitch if you're succeeding. But if you're not succeeding, It is absolutely. I'm exhausted thinking about that.
What I think it is, it's ego. I kid you not, and I've seen it at every single level, and at a Major League Baseball level, even at a high school level, you have a seasoned catcher, and I don't care what grade he's in, preferably not freshman, because get a year under his belt at high school level. But by then, if you don't know how to call a game, and you don't know how to look at a batter when he's standing in the box and know what pitches he's not gonna like, then you shouldn't be catching. And furthermore, the last time I checked, the Yankees have one of the best catchers in the game, and that's got to be highly annoying to have to look to the side to a pitching coach giving him signs. Oh, that would blow my mind.
Well,
I don't know how
agree with
he's
that.
handling that. I mean, that is such a distraction. I can't even begin to tell you.
Well, are we talking about
Sanchez.
Sanchez?
Yeah,
Are we
yeah.
talking about Sanchez? Okay.
Yep.
I'm one of those guys at my age that says some of that accountability has to be Stanton's. I mean, at some point in time, he's been there long enough. You have to say, listen, I can do this. I need to do this. And what we're trying to execute now, it's not only is it not working, it's more of a distraction than it is anything. That's what I would say. I mean, Stan's he's not a 21-year-old rookie. You get in front of your coach and you say, listen, coach, we got to try this. We have to do something different. It's not working, or I'm uncomfortable with this. Why do you not trust me? Basically, the communication there has to be a little more transparent. Maybe we don't know everything. That's the one thing that we always have our opinions. We have our armchair opinions. But if we know something, listen, I think I know a little bit about baseball. I've told you guys I'm doing some work right now I'm go back to 67, 68 is when, and it's vivid. I remember 67 and 68 like it was yesterday, guys. I'm 7, 8 years old. That was my life. And I tell people that and they say, you don't remember that. I do. I don't just remember it. I mean, those are my stories. Those are my summer story. I used baseball to tell, if somebody asks what we did, we go to school, what'd you do this summer? Man, I played baseball. I watched baseball. I lived baseball. That's what I did. And I'll tell you that baseball's in trouble. I've said it. Joey brought it up on the shows. Baseball's in trouble because they have allowed that group of MLB owners who are a different breed. They're different than the NFL owners. They're different than the NBA owners. They're different than NHL owners. They do what they want to do. They ignore what they want to ignore until it scars their brand to some degree. And then what they do is what they do really well too, and that is they turn it, they spin it, and they put their white hat on. They get in front of the media with their with their Cheshire cat grins and say, "Listen, we've done everything we can do, but we are the only people and the only group that can fix this. We are the antidote." And it goes back to McGuire. We can go back farther, but this, if you watched yesterday, guys, yesterday was it hadn't started yet when they turned this new. Today on the show, I called it substance abuse police, which it's not. It's foreign substance police. It was a joke, guys. I had already got some text on that, but what happened? Yeah, it's a joke, guys. They've completely. If this continues, see, they've changed the way the game's played, not just the way It's not just the way we see it or the aesthetics of this game. They're changing how it's played, and again, you guys you've been involved in sports as long as I have. NFL referees don't always agree with them. But most of the part, you have to almost break out your nunchucks and hit the sons of guns upside their head before they're going to call a penalty on a coach. You have to chase them down the sidelines. They do a fairly good job of being invisible. They're not the show. Basketball officials, not quite as good as NFL officials, But for the most part, listen, these guys should be marriage counselors because they listen to the lamest verbiage. If they've heard some of the stuff that you catch on tape, they listen to it. Most of them will smile and they'll say something, and on the way they go. Baseball umpires, guys, they think like the MLB owners. They're entitled. And from Joe West, Country Joe West, who has his own website, it has his own studio and produces his own country music, and absolutely he pitches this country music while he's on the baseball field, and he knows the microphone is pointed in his direction. These guys are it's contagious within that. And what's going on now to put the umpires in that position is something many of them probably enjoy and invite, but it's not. I've seen a lot of things bad for baseball, but I don't know that I've seen anything to this degree, because when players are down there pulling their pants out down to their knees, and they're showing, and let's be honest, broadcasting isn't contributing. They're showing, Mad Max and got his glove, and it's a circus. This is a sideshow to what already is a 30-ring circus.
Well said.
And I know I'm getting a little passionate about it, but that's how I feel about baseball. And the traditions, obviously, the times they are changing, as Bob Dylan would say.
I was during that steroid era. Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I want to hear what you have said, and I've said enough. But there's certain traditions that have to remain for the game to be played the way it's played. And there's always been cheating. There's always been adjustments. The players are trying to get an edge, but these guys are kids, guys. And what's happened now is the owners let them get away with this stuff until the issues and the variables here, the problems that we have are actually on their front door. Until it's in their living room or and then they get together and say, well, guys, it's time to perform our and not say annual, but our act, and that is we're going to turn this on the players. And the timing of this one, guys, is pretty good too, isn't it? The fact that it happens to be right during the CBA negotiations.
They always turn the blind. The owners always seem to be so lily white innocent. Like during the steroid era, not one of them, they all acted like, "Oh my goodness, steroids in our league." Oh well, this must be taken care of. Yeah. We had no idea. I mean, that's the part that drives me silly. But
they didn't even know black. Right. They didn't know black players played baseball until Jackie Robinson was around. Now they say, well, we didn't know that black players could play baseball.
Yeah, sad as that is.
Okay, right. Right.
Sad as that is.
No doubt about it. And then when they finally, we all know that listen, that's another show. We can get into all that. We and it's something I don't want to get involved in because I'm passionate about that as well. And I'm on the wrong side. Listen, many people think I'm on the completely wrong side of that, which surprises me. It really does.
Well, I can tell you this, George Springer. You guys in the chat room should write this one down because this is one that I track as supporting handicapping evidence. The game after a game in which George Springer had 0 hits at home for the Astros in home games, he was 92-50, or his team was.
Yeah.
65%. Average line minus 173. $100 better made almost $2,000 just doing that blindly in Astro home games. On the road, 59%, 72-51. So that's 265 games in which Springer had no hits, which it sounds like a ton, but it really isn't. But the track record of him going 2 games without a hit, and usually his hits are something that the Yankees would die for right now. They actually score runs or advance runners, and Yeah, Rob is saying he's batting in the 5 hole, and this is a guy that you're not going to see the launch angle at 25 degrees, and he's not afraid to hit behind the runner. He's not afraid to go to the opposite field, and he just, you look at his hitting chart, he just sprays it all over the place, And I don't understand why other baseball players don't adopt that. Well, you know what I think of launch angle. I think about as much of that as I do the owners.
Springer's not going to be. He's not the guy that goes up there and swings for. I'll say it. If I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. The Dodgers may be one of the worst situational teams I've ever seen, but Dave Roberts is. They don't try to listen. I've seen him so many times be one run ahead, late in the game, runners on first and second, nobody out, and they're up there trying to make the margin 4 or 5. They're not even trying to to manufacture, and we don't see a lot of that anymore, guys. We don't see bunts. And I'm not saying I disagree with giving away an out, giving away an out, much like say the sabermetrics or the Moneyball, program is.
Yeah.
Oakland didn't. They didn't like to bunt for years. Still don't. No one even bunts anymore. I've seen guys who are skilled with a bat try to bunt, and it's embarrassing. I've seen 10-year-olds do a better job.
Yeah, whereas like I would always be, those younger teams, I would always say, remember, top half of the ball, top half of the ball.
Yeah.
This is a reminder. But then you watch. You're right. You watch the pros, and it's like, it's a skill that they never tried before in their life.
Oh, listen, it's like anything. You don't forget how to ride a bike. No. But I've seen, and I won't mention her name, but I could mention her initials, and I won't even go there. But I've seen her ride a bike for the first time in 30 years, and it damn sure looked like she never knew how to ride a bike. She put a dent in the car trying to get out of the garage. It was funny, to be honest with you. That's what it is, though. It's funny when in the situation I just described. It's embarrassing for a guy making $10 million a year.
Oh yeah, I would take more pride in and know the skill. Bunting is like free throw shooting.
Oh God, here we go.
It's about as difficult if you think about it. Well, yeah, it's just well anyway.
Yeah. AJ Hinch made the most out of the bunt yesterday, right? They suicide squeezed to win a game. Got to keel Baду home. I'll say this real quick, guys. We talk a lot about George Springer, but the guy who's going to end up benefiting the most from him in the 5-hole has got to be Teoscar Hernandez. He's now sandwiched between Guerrero Jr. and George Springer. And the last 2 days, he's 4 for 9 with a home run. His average, it's hard to raise your average a lot at this point in time because there's so many at-bats accumulated.
Yeah.
But he's gone from 295, from 292 up to 301 since Springer got back into the lineup. So there's a cleanup hitter who, in my estimation, is probably about a 265 hitter with no protection, 260 hitter. I think his career stats will bear that out. But he's going to be a guy who's protected on both ends, and he's going to see a lot of pitches. He's got a lot of power, and I think he's going to benefit more than, Jeff Kent used to benefit from Barry Bonds. I'm not saying this guy's going to benefit the way Jeff Kent did, but he's going to benefit from it because pitchers are going to look at Guerrero, they're going to look at Springer, and then they're going to look at Hernandez and say, that's where I'll take my chance right there. And if he puts the bat on the ball, Toronto's going to be real scary.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm waiting for the day when the bases are loaded and they walk Guerrero.
Yeah. Well, that's probably not coming any day soon, but
not since Bobby Bonds, and I don't know who it was before Bobby Bonds, but somebody told me it was Ruth. That's a long jump, So.
Yeah, well, I forget who the manager was that night, but he was willing to give up 1 instead of 4 because Barry might have found that ocean.
Yep.
Tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and I don't know. I'm not sure what the score was. That what the score was? I thought they only had like a 2 or 3 run lead, and they didn't just walk Barry Bonds. They walked him with the bases loaded.
Yeah,
they gave up a run.
Right. Rather than try and give up 4 by throwing to him.
Yep. That's like you said, Rob. You guys both said, the fact that there's another thing about baseball that Barry Bonds isn't a Hall of Famer. He was a Hall of Famer long before steroids were. Not that he was. It doesn't even matter to me because guess what? you permitted it. Now, that's another episode. It's another show. The fact is that Hall of Fame isn't really in the hands of Major League Baseball.
It's not. They're not connected at all.
That's correct.
Not corporate wise at all.
That's correct.
Their mission statement. Another thing you get me all riled up about. Their mission statement is to report the history of baseball.
Right.
Not decide what is going to be allowed in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
But to report it. So with the steroid era,
Pete Rose is another guy. So.
Well, he's plastered all over the Hall of Fame, to be honest.
Well, he is, but he's not. But he's not. Guess what?
He doesn't have the bust. He doesn't have the plaque.
That's right.
But there must be. I bet you there's a dozen exhibits where he's featured, and one is that he is the all-time hits leader.
Wow.
He's listed number 1 on the all-time hits list. So he is in there. They're reporting it. But he's not in the actual hall. Which I don't know if you've ever been to the Hall of Fame, but it's kind of...
I drove by it all those years. I've driven by it so on my trips up to upstate New York, to see my first marriage was my first wife was from upstate. So she didn't like me. She wouldn't let him fly. So I had to go drive, long drive.
Well, you go through
But right by
Cooperstown
Canton.
and some
Right by
wine,
Canton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Canton, Ohio is
I'm sorry. Yes.
NFL, but Cooperstown.
Cooperstown. Starts with a C.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah,
Both
well, I
of them start
know.
with a C.
I'm not on you.
Tomato, Canton. Tomato, Cooperstown.
Rob, do you have a volume for your mic? I turned your mic up as far as I could on my side, and one of the guys in the chat room said they couldn't necessarily hear you. So
Well, we can see, John. Do you guys hear me clear?
You're soft.
I'm soft.
You are soft. So, and I'm
We're
not talking about. We're not talking about We're not talking about how you bring your game. That kind of soft, but your voice is soft.
Let's see here.
And I'll tell you, I don't know. You guys were talking about substance a little bit. We're talking about baseball.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about baseball necessarily. Pick winners or losers and who we like tonight. Although that comes along with it, the state of baseball. And I don't know how many of you in the audience. Some of you may already know. Maybe you do as much work and chase quotes and watch those kind of things. Did you happen to watch what was being? Have you followed the Red Sox at all last week or two? Have you followed them at all? Have you?
Yeah.
The latest.
I like them as much as the Sixers.
Really? Okay, I'm glad to hear you say that. Because then you probably will be able to comment on this, and that is the pitcher tonight. You know who's pitching for the Blood Sox tonight? It would be Garrett.
Ex-Angel.
And did you read some of the quotes? He has not been very good. He was good early in the season. Recently, he's not been very good. And the quotes that are coming out of Boston, have you read any of them, John?
I didn't read anything today.
Okay.
You're talking about Garrett Richards?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about Garrett Richards. But I'm going to, I don't know if I have my notes, but I wrote them. I hate to start telling you what a quote is without, I'm going to paraphrase them, and then somebody's going to say blasphemy, or tell me I'm the devil.
You're entitled to your opinions. At least on this show you are.
So I'll say this. I just found them. Okay, so this way I don't mess it up. But I think this is significant. Well, many people may not. But here's, this is verbatim, okay? This is the Herald, too, guys, so it's not something that's hard to find. In his recent slump, which hit a low point in Wednesday night's 8-2 loss to the Rays, Garrett Richards is struggling to survive as his spin rate dips. Richards is trying to get a good grip on the baseball, but he admits he is struggling to do so following MLB's recent crackdown, which prevents pitchers from using any foreign substance but rosin. The bottom line is that Richards is going to need to learn how to adapt better than on Wednesday, when he didn't make it out of the second inning. Over 1 2/3 innings, he gave up 3 hits, 5 runs, 4 earned, walked 4, struck out none. That's what that's what the author of this article wrote. Okay, the total tonight in Kansas in Fenway, 11.
I saw that too.
11 with Duffy. Now here's the issue with Duffy. Now Duffy's having a great year, under a 2-point ERA. Okay, his velocity returned from his best season, which was 2017. His command from that season has returned. Here's the issue, and then here's what we got, and here's his handicap. It's not tough enough on us. Now, did all these things return for Duffy because he too decided to dip and attack this year? And here's the deal too: the Royals decided not to put him. He just came off the IL, and they decided not to put him into the to give him any AAA or AA work. Okay, they said, you know what? I'm just going to bring you back. We're going to pull you out of the bullpen and let you build your arm strength back up with that. So on Wednesday, he pitched 2 innings. And guess what? No hits, 3 walks in the 2 innings. No runs, but couldn't get a grip on the ball. He comes back on Friday, pitches 1 inning. It was better, okay? It was better. Tonight he starts. And my guess, and listen, those who are listening, my guess is this, and I'll just give it away right now. I played over 11, and I don't play over 11s unless it's Coors Field. I don't play over 11s.
It shows you where you see it too.
Right, and I'm telling you that. So I made a call to the guy I know that handles the Yankees, and he said, "Listen, we both know Richards, okay? Like Richards, there was always something good about Richards because he was either pitching really well or he was hurt. He has a history of being hurt." And when he was on the West Coast recently, he was pretty good. Actually, he was pretty good. His peripherals were okay. I don't think you're not supposed to be in the Red Sox starting lineup or the rotation, should I say, unless you can pitch. Now, I don't mean innings eaters. I mean they have money. Unless you can pitch, you're not supposed to be in that rotation. And then this happens. So this is where we're at in baseball.
It's true.
Yeah. A lot of guesswork, Tone. A lot of guesswork for handicap.
Not just guesswork for us, but for me, it's just it tastes so bad, and it feels so bad because it's just not the way it's supposed to be. It doesn't have to be this way, and it's this way for lots of reasons. There's conflicts of interest. You know, if you're arrested for homicide, for justifiable homicide of someone from the Philadelphia Phillies or the Sixers, then chances are that you can't go in front of the judge that is your dad, and you're probably better off not having your drunk cousin represent you, even though he has a law license. Baseball shouldn't own. Major League Baseball should not own the company that makes the baseball. And I know they say, why not?
Yeah.
They shouldn't.
And that Rawlings is in our neck of the woods where Rob and I are. You can take tours of it.
And guess what? I guess they're not a publicly traded company, guys. Baseball's not. It's incorporated. It's an enterprise that is incorporated. However, they're not publicly traded, so they don't have to tell us what they make. They don't have to. Nope. There's a lot of things they don't have to tell us anything. In fact, any numbers that we get for those listening, any numbers that are posted for how much a baseball team is worth or how much their revenues are, is speculation based on basically on contracts that they have with vendors, because they don't tell us anything, nothing.
Yep. And intellectual property is a big component too, which is very hard to. That's market dependent. That's basically how much somebody's willing to pay for that.
Right.
As opposed to an actual calculation, but it is a calculation of the best attempt effort. But I will tell you this.
Go ahead. I'm listening because it's something I could talk about this for hours, man. It's so wrong.
Always been told that after Boston plays the Yankees, they have a big letdown, like a team playing the Patriots, and they win at Foxborough, and then they come home and play horribly bad. Well, it's not true. And I ran a little query. Previous opponent, Yankees. Previous home win. Team, Red Sox. Line, 140 favorite or higher. And home. 19-13 straight up, 59%. But the over is 21-8-2 for a 30% ROI over the 15-year time period. And the average total, interesting enough, is actually above normal at 9.5. Granted, it's not 11. Well, actually, do you want to know how many games they've played after the Yankees series that the first game was 11? How about if I do 10?
Yeah, I'd like to know.
Total. Greater than or equal to 10. Well, it's been a few, 18 of them. The last 15 seasons, and the over in those games of totals of 10 or higher, 14-4, and that's 78%.
I'll take that probability.
There you go.
I'll take that probability on an even basically a 10-cent juice push. Absolutely.
And I'll tell you, I don't have a side pick in this game, but if I had to, for show purposes, I would put pizza money on Kansas City.
It would be the, I would say the most value in this.
Yep.
However, I'm telling you something. What Kansas City's doing right now, and this is my argument. I'll play devil's advocate a little bit on this, and maybe Rob can throw in. But what I say about this Kansas City's doing is the fact how they handle Duffy by basically saying, "Listen, we don't want him. We're not going to mess around with him. We'll just go ahead and we'll bring him back." To the show, and let him just work his way back into. We'll throw him in certain situations. We'll let him work his way back into shape and into whatever you want to label when a pitcher needs to be stretched out again or have a little bit of work, so he kind of finds his mojo. That tells me Kansas City doesn't care about winning. You see,
right?
I'm not saying they don't care about winning. I'm saying that that's against traditional. It's against logic on how when you put a player into a lineup, a major player, and in the stands, each person on average is going to spend about $200 or for more than a day's wages to buy your product.
Yep.
Then they deserve the best product you can put on the field. Am I wrong? It's no different than buying something from Walmart or whether it's Saks Fifth Avenue. And listen, people, I've already gotten 3 or 4 texts on my phone that there's somebody's listening, okay? And, yeah, someone's listening to me, which is shocking. But they've said to me, Tony, you can't, if they're not publicly traded, they can do whatever they want. Well, here's my argument. They can't. And I say they can't because of how they handle their labor. And a player if it's under contract, they can't, even if they're into the contract or if they have a grief, they don't have a whole lot of. Listen, the player union is pretty powerful. But my point's this: until free agency, these guys were essentially, they were bought and sold, and they still are.
Yeah,
they're bought and sold. So if you're going to limit a man's income or his livelihood. If you're going to do things like Forrest Gregg did to a friend of mine, Bucky Scribner, God rest his soul, Bucky, and basically collude so he can't work, then you are up to public scrutiny. Then you have put yourself in a situation where you get to be publicly scrutinized. And that's why there's a reason why we have a collective, and I'm answering to the guys that just texted me. That's why we have a collective bargaining agreement, because of the monopoly that this is. And what they've created, and how they continue to basically, in subtle, aggressive, call it what you want, to remain such. Then I don't care that you're not publicly traded. You owe everyone, as long as you live in America and benefit from America and our laws and our freedoms. You are going to be scrutinized, and you're going to reveal things that are relevant to your product, what we're paying for, and what we're going to get. And that's my opinion. I don't think you can argue it all you want. Maybe you can argue it legally. but it's the right thing to do.
Yep, I agree. Completely agree. Why don't we move on to?
Yeah, let's do it.
Actually, man, it's 5:20. Maybe we should start the round of best bets for the show.
All right.
Because we only have one basketball game going tonight, and I can pull up my player props. If
At 6
Rob, do you have a pick that you have ready to go for the final round?
Yeah, I can give you what I used on the NBA tip-off show, guys. I have NBA up for sale at WagerTalk.com, so I'm not going to use that, but I will use the player prop. And it just comes from the saying that we overuse on the NBA tip-off show, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that leads me right to DeAndre Ayton, his points, rebounds, and assists total, which over the course of the 4 games in this series, he's totaled in at 31, 39, 44, and 27. They've upgraded, or they've made this number larger than it was earlier in the series. He's gone over 4 straight times. The 27 actually got over. In that game, it was only a 26.5.
I had 27.5 that day.
Well, then middle number. Tonight it's 29.5.
Yeah.
And now I'm not saying he's going to get 22 rebounds like he did last game. 6 guys in that brick fest the other night. 6 players got 13 or more rebounds, which was crazy. That many missed shots. But DeAndre Ayton has just continued to put up double-double in this particular series and scored pretty high as far as points, rebounds, assists are concerned. So tonight at 29.5, I see the same thing happening. I don't know that these teams are going to come out of their defensive shells, guys. Game 2, Tyronn Lue made an adjustment that changed this entire series. The first game goes over. Tyronn Lue decides game 2, we're going to start Zubats and Pat Beverly, and we're going to turn it into, the squared circle, and we're just going to box it out with you. And Monty Williams seems to be just fine with that on Phoenix's end. I mean, they've gone right along with it. The games have been close ever since that day. You have an alley-oop with a couple seconds left to win a game for Phoenix, barely. You have L.A. winning by 14 points, and then you have the game the other night, 84-80, where Paul George misses 2 free throws, down 3. A chance to cut it to 1 with about 16 seconds left. And then you have a referee's decision to not look at a replay that they looked at the game before that could have actually gone off the Phoenix Suns ball handler's hand. So the games have been close, but I think where Ayton is concerned, and that's where this prop leads, that 29.5 is still not high enough here. His rebounds should hit double digits. His points should hit double digits. A couple of stray assists, and I think we'll get there. So over 29.5 for DeAndre Ayton, points, rebounds, and assists. Even though Zubats has been playing, it hasn't seemed to matter in stopping Ayton get, at least where I'm concerned, over these totals. The 27.5 for Tony was a different number than what I got. So good for me for getting a better number that day.
Good for you. Damn it.
Everybody thought they were listening to Rob Veno, and I'll have to blame the producer here for not switching the screen. They were seeing Tony Finn the whole time that Rob was talking.
Yeah, they want Tony's reaction.
Yeah, but what was being said was so intellectually superior to mine. They had to know it wasn't me. So,
God, you're so humble.
Yeah. Well,
Man, wow.
maybe just honest. Every once in a while I'm honest.
They need to read your
That was listen. I want to say I sent the unedited version, and I apologize if you do read that. It wasn't edited, so there's a couple words missing. When I sent that, it was about 4 a.m. I was exhausted, and typically I said something I didn't tell James. I just who's the head of WagerTalk Media or News, and smart guy, good editor. Edit it, James. I don't have access anymore. I don't contribute like I used to. But yeah, I'll do a little bit more of that because when they paid me to work in the news, I was subject to writing what they wanted, how many words they wanted, and now I just kind of contribute every once in a while. So while I don't get paid, I enjoy the fact that I get to be I get to do basically kind of op-ed stuff, where I can put my opinion out there even, and I guess I better start putting a disclaimer because I'll start getting crazy. I'll put a disclaimer on there. This doesn't necessarily represent the views of WagerTalk.
That's right. And for those watching
necessarily
who don't know what we're talking about here, it's Tony Finn's MLB State of the Union article that just came out. I think I saw it yesterday.
I cut 1,000 words out of that, and it's way too long as it is. I cut out a long list of I'm trying to be politically as much political. The word would be indiscretions, or be it race, or be it the gambling. They let gambling go on for a long time too. But when players' salaries weren't what they are now, they had no problem with players gambling. Why? Because they weren't at the negotiating table asking for more money from Major League Baseball.
Make it enough.
It's all about, listen, Major League Baseball, and I can give you this long list. It's all about, if it benefits their, the word, how about this? Negotiating good faith. It doesn't happen with Major League Baseball unless you consider good faith being they get an edge, they make more money, their bottom line grows, then that's good faith. And I know you may think I'm being a little bit sardonic or being sarcastic here. I'm not. I'm telling you that baseball's always been that way. There's been a few owners that aren't with us anymore that weren't that way in baseball, but they were that way in business. Ewing Kauffman, guys. Ewing Kauffman, his vow. When he bought when he had the Royals after Charles Finley, when Charles Finley left and they did it was Ewing Kauffman. He promised the Kansas City that he would outspend George Steinbrenner. He promised it. Guess what? Everybody talks about George Steinbrenner in the 70s, with the Chambliss home run. Those 76, 77, 78 Kansas City Royals, New York Yankees, divisional champ. Those Royals teams had higher payrolls than those Yankee teams. But listen, as good as Ewing Kauffman was for baseball and what he did, the Royals go to the World Series in '80 and they really get blitzed pretty badly. That was a time period when Quaaludes and cocaine were very prevalent in everyone's life that lived. It was able to do that in 1980, especially baseball players. Daryl Porter. Yep. I mean, listen, there's a lot of stuff back there. Porter he was a Quaalude. He had to go to rehab. There's a lot of guys. It just was that way. And in fact, recently, I don't know if you guys know, Willie Mays Aikens was, I believe, to be finally released from federal prison, which he did 15, 20 years, because he was addicted to cocaine, and then he started selling it, and he got caught. And Willie Mays Aikens, who not too many people can say they hit 2 home runs in Major League Baseball postseason in one game. Willie Mays Aikens can say that, and I'm sure he told thousands of people at Leavenworth prison. Yep. But that's the things that I talk about, because Major League Baseball as long as it benefited them, guys, we know. They're not going to address it until it scars their brand, until it leaves, until it leaves that flood mark, and then it's typically, it's a well orchestrated plan. They are a savvy, despicable but savvy group.
Would you put John Henry in that group?
Yes.
Just curious.
Well, I don't know. Let's put it this way. I don't put anyone. Listen, I've said it in the article too. If I don't know you, there's a lot of people I know that are involved with MLB. They either were on their payroll or they were a vendor or contracted. Okay, and I said in the article that you can't put. I'm not going to label that we push every single person into the poison container. That if you're involved in MLB, however, ownership and the power structure there, is very, very. It's all about. Listen, it doesn't matter if I have to draw blood. What matters is meeting whatever quota has been set that I have to meet. It doesn't matter to what length or at anyone's expense, and that's just the way it is. And it shouldn't be a shock to anybody that those kind of people live around. They live in our neighborhoods. We deal with them every day. It's just we're humans, and that's always going to be the way humans deal with each other. The strong survive, and sometimes the weak win. And they say the meek will inherit, right?
Yeah,
we'll see. I haven't inherited anything yet.
Well, I think you have
yet, but I'm alive.
I think you have to be not breathing to receive
I think you're
that.
right. Okay.
If I remember
right.
a little bit like that. Something has to happen before you get that gift.
Well, then I take all it back. Let's just because I'm not quite ready yet to die. Although I'm not scared of dying, I'm just not quite ready to die.
A lot to do, Steve.
Wow.
A lot of opinions to share.
So what was your free pick again?
My free pick is the Major League Baseball will win. Bet on Major League Baseball and the powers that are to win. The odds are really good. I'm going to take Detroit and Cleveland under the total. How can you take Detroit and Cleveland under the total, you ask me? Well, here's why. Here's how. Quickly, Manning for Detroit. First off, this is a top prospect. This is a guy that was one of the top prospects in baseball. He had some struggles in April and May with long ball, 11 home runs, 33 innings, something like that at AAA. And I'm shooting from the hip here because I don't have any notes in front of me.
It's okay.
Yeah, but he's produced. They said, we know what we have with Manning. We're just going to bring him up anyway. We don't have to wait for him to be, to put up all-star numbers at AAA to produce with the mothership, Major League Baseball, with the big show, with the parent company. And he's had a pretty good couple of turns. He really has. He's one of those young guys that has the talent, the potential, and he's going to face a lineup that no matter how well they've produced or how well they've executed recently, and they have. I mean, if you look at the surface numbers, Cleveland, I think is the fifth best offense in the month of July. Okay, as far as efficiency goes, but I think we all know that that's situational. That doesn't incorporate opponents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, guys. Cleveland's still Cleveland, and they're not the offensive team that the Yankees are supposed to be. Certainly not what Houston is right now. Houston's dynamite right now. Wow. Yep. Long story short, and then on the other side of that coin, should I say, is Cleveland. So Cleveland is putting a guy that has and I don't know how much you know about him, Eli Morgan. Okay, I'm sure you guys do. If you look at, I was reading through, I wanted to see how many fantasy owners have Eli Morgan on their roster. Mm-hmm. Well, I found a few places. About one at ESPN, they say they have 1% of the fantasy owners have Eli Morgan rostered. And Detroit's not very good offensively, but they're not what they were first month of the season. They've made some adjustments. They've gotten a little better. Weather's warming up. But Morgan's got a 10.3 ERA, 1.7 whip, something like that. His last start, though, however, he struck out 9, didn't walk anybody, 5 innings at Wrigley Field. So go ahead and say, well, that's the Cubs. That's about the same thing as Cleveland. Maybe. If that's the case, then or Detroit, then that's the case. That's pretty good. This number, it was teetering at 9.5 and 10. I waited to get the 10. I got the 10. I don't know what it is right now, guys. I'll pull it up so people who are listening. I'm showing that right now it is in fact pretty much 9.5. There's a 10 under at Penny, 10 under at 14. So I'm going to guess that you might be able to find a 10. 10 under 15 at Heritage. So there's your sharp books, and that's telling you, well, they have 8-cent lines, so I'm going to guess that's still 9.5 at most places. But I like the under here, guys. I like the under. Not only do I like the under, the conditions in Cleveland tonight are favorable for an under too. Not that they ever become uber favorable for pitchers or hitters at Cleveland like they might at Detroit. But the umpire, I did wanted to wait for the umpire because I got my information that I get on umpires. You guys know that I have a little bit of a, double secret probation kind of information I get sometimes from on that stuff, much like Animal House. And what I learned was this. I learned that the crew, I learned about the probabilities of crews, guys, just so everyone knows. And the guy that chases this stuff is pretty good at it. He really is. He knows where certain crews are already, and sometimes he doesn't. Thursdays are much better, and Fridays he's much more accurate because Mondays are much more difficult. But long story short is he said that he believed that it was going to be Ryan Wills, that crew, and which would mean Ryan Wills was next up to get the assignment at home plate, right? Ryan Wills doesn't have a whole lot. He's got 18 assignments behind home plate. He's part of the newbies, the new generation umpires, the robots, per se. However, 24.4% strikeout rate. Ryan Wills. Small sample size, right? 24.4%. Yeah. Under a 10% base on ball percentage. You put those two, listen, anytime you can get more than 23 and under 10 in an umpire, if you have a better sample size too, know that no matter what his over-under record is, he's pitcher-friendly. That's pitcher-friendly, guys. And I can give you some examples of that, but I don't want to. I've already spent too much time on the free pick. Free pick is under. Umpire's good, at least what we know about him. Like I said, not very many assignments, 18 total assignments behind home plate. The pitcher's unknown to both lineups and have a little bit of they got their feet wet already, okay? Two teams that don't hit the ball, they're not the type of teams that are going to bunch a bunch of hits together and put crooked numbers up. And you get a big number, 9.5, maybe even a 10 in Cleveland on a night that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, guys, let me just make sure so I don't. I've gotten so many texts and emails already today of me claiming I'm wrong that I'd like not to be that anymore. Yeah, right. It's showing it's going to be about 85 degrees the first pitch, but we have a little 5 to 8 mile an hour wind blowing in from center at Progressive, so that makes it pitcher friendly as well. And that's my under 9.5 or 10 with. Those two household names, Manning and Morgan, going at it on Progressive Field Hill.
John, before you go real quick, Tone,
yes.
That the buy signal wasn't already there.
Right.
On Tariq Skubal for Detroit.
Yes.
But how about
I've talked
yesterday?
Yep.
It was like 27 swings and misses by an Astro lineup that doesn't swing and miss at anything. It was incredible what he did to that lineup yesterday.
Yeah, and I'll throw a cap. I'll go to Houston's defense to some degree that it was a Sunday lineup. Okay, let's throw that in there. But we both know the names that were in there.
Yep.
And when you do that to a Houston team that puts the bat on the ball, and I said that about somebody said something about. Skubal, I talked about the swings and misses he was getting, some of the strikeout numbers he had. He's not very skilled. He's a young pitcher. Pay attention. That's what you're saying, Rob? I agree. Pay attention to this kid. Yeah.
Absolutely. Casey Mize the night before was good against that lineup, but
yes.
Skubal, when I saw the swing and miss number, I was like, holy, Houston doesn't swing and miss at anything. And granted, he's right Sunday lineup, but.
You know who said? Let me just. And I'm sorry, John. We're going to see. Right. This is why I get on the show. I spend 5. I got it. We have to somehow do a better job of managing Tony Finn because he's absolutely outrageously a mess.
I've had no complaints.
What's the biggest swing and miss? What is the biggest swing and miss total this year? In total, of a start. You would think it would be DeGrom, right? Those kind of guys. It's not. Who is it? Anybody have any idea? If I tell you who it is, you're probably going to be surprised. I'm going to have people looking it up. But it was the last time I looked, okay?
Aaron Nola.
No, but that's not bad. That's a pretty good guess because of what he did recently. That's recency bias, so let's not bring in recency bias. How about I told you that if I said his name, you'd think he was a third baseman or something.
Come on.
And he played for San Francisco.
He's
a pitcher for the LA Angels, Sandoval.
Oh, wow. Patrick Sandoval.
That's correct. Now, pay attention, guys, who's listening. I caught him on an under first time he came up, or he came out of it was his second or third start maybe, but and he was facing Arizona, so maybe it doesn't count. but he's got skill set, and again, all this we talk about and what I've just mentioned, it was before the tax situation. So man, everything changes. Everything could change.
Yeah.
It's almost like we have to take our notes, wad them up, and throw them in the trash. Yeah.
I mean, I asked the question today, how did Anthony DeSclafani get to be the guy who's putting up these numbers? I don't know. I don't know.
Either.
That's a
Who did you
mystery.
ask that to? Because I said it on the show. I said, listen, how do you explain San Francisco? I wrote an article and said, don't let Belt get hurt. And damn if he didn't have surgery the next day.
Yeah.
You know, how do you get hurt at first base? How do you get injured? Well, it's an older injury, I think. What happened to Belt, but who was there? Who is it? Baldelli?
No, Baldelli's not their manager. It's
No. I'm sorry, not Baldelli. My apologies.
it's the guy from Philly. It's Gabe Kapler.
Right.
No, I'm not talking about the manager. I'm talking about and it's escaped me because I'm off the tack.
Sounds
I don't
like
remember. I don't remember.
Physician.
Sounds like
I'm off that tax stuff, so I don't remember.
Sounds like Baldelli.
No, it's who's the veteran that's playing for San Fran, not a Giant, never been a Giant, or had not a history of a Giant. I know who it is. I mean, I'm supposed to know these things. I'm on air. I'm supposed to not tell people I don't know. Huh? Longoria, right. Evan Longoria is they're still winning. Evan Longoria led this team. If you look at his WAR and how many games and how he contributed to this record that they have before he was hurt, they're still winning, guys. And they can't afford to lose offensive production. They're nothing super offensively. They are where they are, best record in baseball, because they're pitching. Now,
Yep.
ask the guy in the bar next to you, the sports bar tonight, when you're sitting next to him, hey man, San Francisco's got the best record in baseball. Who's their ace? What's their rotation? This son of a bitch will know. He'll look at you like, I got to go to the restroom, because he won't know. He won't know. Will he?
It's true.
Do they even know themselves?
Well, I don't even know.
Right.
And I follow baseball 24/7. No, I'm kidding you. But I'm saying it's a shock to me. Now, Gosman's not a shock. I like Gosman. However, should we be concerned with AD, as Rob mentioned, or Gosman, or this group?
Yeah.
I think so.
I mean, I was concerned about Gosman 2 weeks ago. Now, it hasn't shown up yet, but
Yeah.
I just don't know. I granted he pitched in Cincinnati, which is not easy, but the numbers these two guys are putting up are not. They've been in the league. They've been around the block a little bit, and they haven't put up anything like.
You're right. And the guy I made the most money with, I keep a track of my plus and minuses on teams in baseball when I release them to my clients. Webb is hurt, and listen, no one knows who Webb was. He was damn good for the first 2 months where he got hurt.
Quite the movement on
Yep.
his ball.
Yeah. So guys, there's a lot of questions there as well. Is what changes? I mean, we're starting to see some things, but what if MLB is going to continue the sideshow that we saw yesterday? And for those who didn't, it was a sideshow. I'm not one of those guys that sits there and laughs or watches what goes on and laughs and chuckles and says, "What the hell?" It hurts me to see that crap in a game I really grew up with, who in a lot of ways formed me, fashion and formed a lot of who I am, and it's a painful thing for me to watch, because I'm embarrassed for them, for baseball, and so how long is this going to go on, and how much is it going to affect what we do, part of our livelihood? It's just a part. It's a small percentage of our livelihood, but it is part.
San Francisco had their 5 starters are over the age of 30.
Yes, and having career years.
Osman's 30, DeSclafani's 31, Alex Wood 30, and some guy named Johnny Cueto.
Yeah, well, Cueto's, listen, I still think Cueto may be the most honest of that staff because he just gets up there, plays. He does his best Luis Tiant and hopes and prays that the ball gets by there.
Well, I played against him.
He beat you. He'll beat you
Friday
when you play
night.
against him.
Friday night with the A's, and in the Phillies game prior to that start, he threw 8 sliders. And if you remember, his third start of the year, he came out of the game, and to me, I never found what the injury was, but it looked like a bicep tendon strain in his throwing arms. He threw a fastball, and right away he told the dugout, I'm out. And then, these ERA has been going up and up and up each month since then. And he threw 8 sliders, which to me, he's averaging 24 all the previous starts. That to me was a sign that his arm was hurting when he threw that pitch. So I thought if the A's could sit on fastballs, it was going to be a joke. Not necessarily a joke, but the A's would win. But it was a 2-0 game, and hats off to Cueto for pitching a gem. I mean, he looked great. Spin rate's 2,300. Whatever. He's obviously not using a foreign substance because he's always had that spin rate, and that's what's made his longevity so incredible.
Yes, and listen, you're right, John. I've never mentioned it yet. Let's mention on the John Vegas Kelly show. But I have close ties to Kansas City, as you guys know, and I know some of the players and by the way, Cueto was on that 2015 World Series team of the Royals. It was a big deal with him because I think that was a time when his father or somebody in his family died, and he came back to. If you remember that, it was Cueto, I believe.
I think you're right.
Yeah, but I gotta, and I'm not gonna kid around with this one. I'm not even gonna give you names or initials. I'm not even gonna play with it because that's something I wouldn't do. I promise. But I was told that all this crap that's going on now with Major League Baseball is, let me just say this, it's bullshit. He said we were doing the 3-headed monster in our bullpen was tacking up every day, which was Wade Davis, Herrera, and who's closing? The same, who's now the closer again for the Royals tonight, was the closer then, and they were all using substances. All 3 throwing more than 100 miles an hour. And if you were on the Kansas City Royals and you had a lead going into the 7th inning, you were a winner, my friend.
Yeah, it was
you
done.
were a damn winner. Huh?
It was done. It was over.
It was a done deal. And which is significant because listen, that wasn't any all Hall of Fame starting rotation with Cueto. Cueto was decent. He was still, that was 6 years ago. So he was a good pitcher, but for the most part, guys, one of those pitchers has passed, who was absolutely dynamite young kid. I don't know if you guys remember that, but he recently passed. Not recently, but it was a young rotation with a lot of potential, but that's not what they did what they had to do, and that was keep the Royals in the game for 6 innings. That's all they had to do. The Royals would either manufacture a run or more errors were committed against that any World Series team. Their opponents committed more errors against the Royals, I think, than I remember it was 50 years or something like that, because of the speed they had, and they put the ball in play and just it just put the pressure on the defense. They didn't hit a lot of home runs, but they were using that. According to my source, they said he's laughing. He's laughing because he said this is Major League Baseball knew it then, and they've known it for a long time.
Yep.
But that was that was a year the Royals did that. That was really the live ball. It was right there at that live ball. We went to the live ball, 17? A little bit live, 16, 17, 18. And that was on that edge where again, that was a World Series with bullpen, basically a team that manufactured runs with an elite bullpen. That's how they won the World Series. But they won it with tack, according to my buddy. He said, this is a bunch of bullshit.
Well, can you get your buddy to call up the Phillies management and explain what they are doing so that they can
I already forgot who he is.
Situation?
I already forgot who he is, and I don't.
We know who the closer is for Philly, or was.
Who is it? Wade Davis?
It's Nero. So
I'm just kidding. Is it Herrera?
No, Rob. It's
the
like
Emperor of Rome.
it's like watching Ben Simmons hit free throws now. I mean, he comes out on the mound, and you could tell the confidence is not there. Then there's an error in that last game, on Saturday. And you could just tell the body language was evident, and why Girardi didn't go out and take him out. They had nobody warming up, and it was just like, okay, the bus is coming. It's going to hurt. It's going to run over you. Yeah. But it's okay to take one for the team since you're our closer. And what does a closer rely on? Confidence, right? You can't have a closer that's wondering whether he's going to give up a bomb.
Especially if he's coming in with the bases loaded with 2 outs in the 8th and has to have a 4-out close.
Yeah, and then that's another thing I don't
like.
That is so hard to do. I can't even begin to tell you.
Right.
They thought that they had a lot of those back-end 8th bridge to closer problem solved when they signed Alvarado from Tampa, when they signed Archie Bradley. They thought maybe they had that fixed, and they wind up just as bad as they've been the last 3 years. None of them. I mean, Archie Bradley got a save yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
But they can't find an answer. I mean, Alvarado, when they got him from Tampa, I thought that was going to be great for Philadelphia. Alvarado is 100 miles an hour. And
with movement.
Nobody knows where the hell it's going, especially him. He doesn't know where it's going. He's been a disaster. It's crazy.
Yep.
It's absolutely crazy.
JT can't catch your ball, then it's a sign that you have control issues. Real Muto is the catcher for the Phillies. For those that don't know, he's a very good defensive
He's a good catcher. He's a catcher who can hit.
Good hitter, good bat. One of the best. And when you throw a ball by him, you basically have to miss by about 4 or 5 feet. It's just amazing. But anyway, maybe I should get onto my NBA. Best bets here.
Yeah, well, it's my fault. I want to tell you that
Ryan
Hendricks.
Right.
Ryan Hendricks is not one of my favorites. In that Cincinnati bullpen. He blew a couple for me last week. So
it's an epidemic, but the Phillies lead the league with 20.
There you go.
That's more than 33% of the games played, for goodness sake. And not all those games did you win. It's like 60. It's got to be a save conversion rate of about 30% for the Phillies. And I'm just guessing. We can talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah, we can talk about that. But there's not a lot of elite bullpen arms available for this trade deadline. Am I right? There's not. I don't think.
I think it's going to be a lot of guesses, but I think teams are going to make the move anyway, and hope they're right. There's so much demand for the relievers. This demand is off the charts. But let's see, NBA.
Okay.
Let's see. I wrote down Rob's was over 29.5 with Ayton. Mm-hmm. I have over 4.5 assists plus 100 for that Booker guy.
Okay.
I'm
going to throw this out to you guys. Does it concern you that this isn't? I don't expect this to be a 120 to 110 point game. Right. I expect it to be much like Rob explained, 100 to 95, 94, one way or the other. Does it concern you that now they've turned the tables a little bit? At least Lou has made those adjustments, and they're not scoring a total of 230 points. Does it concern you on that 29.5 that Rob has? Or
I can't answer that because I have a 5-unit play on the total tonight. Sports
okay.
Memo.
And
gotcha.
All right.
I'm 5-1 in totals.
Good.
I'll just say in response to that real quick, Tone, I just think in Ayton's case it winds up in rebounds.
Well, that's what I was going to tell you. Yeah. There's a reason I had 22 rebounds, right? Because they had so many damn missed shots.
Bricks. Oh my
goodness. Six guys with 13 or more.
Yeah, when there's 6 of them in one game, that just shows you it was.
Yeah.
God, it was poor.
Yeah. Good
and
point.
I don't see either coach changing, guys. I really don't. So we'll see. Yeah. Go ahead, John, because we don't want to make you give away your. Yeah.
No, that's all right. Over 4.5 assists for Booker. Paul George double minus 129. Paul George triple-double, 14-1. And the reason I think that is if they are going to be competitive, he's going to have to be more of a distributor of the ball. His assists will go up and points down. That gives him a real good chance to get the triple-double. And then Phoenix Suns first half total. That one I can't give out. Oops. but it has to do with the Phoenix Suns, and it's only the first half. But the play is a 5-unit on the game. It's on the game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. There you go.
But I guess for today, that's about it. You guys have anything going on at WagerTalk tonight that's big?
Not big. Not big.
I'm involved. I have 2 baseballs and an NBA play.
Yeah.
So
I have 3
good.
baseball. I have 3 baseball. I have the side and total in the NBA game too. So
Awesome.
yeah.
And I see France blows it.
I was watching it. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I heard
That's a major upset. Major upset.
So
I know
it goes to penalty kicks, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's extra time and then penalty kicks, and
So
apparently
the first 8 guys all make theirs. So now it's coming down to the last guy for each side. Switzerland makes theirs 9 in a row, and then the 10th guy for France, the goalie saves that one.
was his
So they
name
lose.
Simmons?
They were minus 440, I think France was 440.
Yeah, I saw it. Regular time they were 350. I saw just for regular time, but you're right. For the extra time, it goes up. No, it was the other way around. You're right. It was minus 350 for extra time. It'd be lower, and then you're right for the regular game. Yeah, it's a monumental upset.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys watch any golf?
Any golf, Tone? I was in
I didn't.
Chicago.
No. I watched some frisbee golf in my neighborhood.
I learned something about DraftKings that I didn't know.
Oh, boy.
And I was, I was very, very excited about what was going on that last half hour, because my DraftKings lineup I knew had to be doing good, but I get a little superstitious. I don't want to check because I'm afraid I'm going to wreck it. So I waited. So then Harris English and the other guy go into sudden death. They're tied at the end of regulation, 72 holes. I know I have Harris English in my lineup. Harris English, after 8 playoff holes, wins it. And I'm thinking, like, whoa, now we got to see where I'm at.
Right.
So I mistakenly thought that was going to be possibly in the top 25 for the whole event, which was 58,000 entries. So I ended up 134 because overtime doesn't count.
Oh, no.
So I sat there, watching this with family, just like, oh my God, will you please make a putt? Come on, you got to make this putt. And both players parred 7 holes, and it took a birdie by Harris English on that last one that won it. So both players played extraordinarily well in the overtime. They made big putts. I mean, both of them made, 5, 6, 7 footers to keep it going. It was something else. But that is the highest I've ever finished yet. Wow. So I wanted to brag about that because I don't give out the picks on Sports Memo, but I've been asked to now.
Yeah, but
I've been asked to, but it's the whole thing. The reason for bringing it up is I talked to Berriman, I talked to Nick Borman, WagerTalk's resident PGA professional, who will be on the show on Wednesday afternoon. And when you listen to the people that also, are that you have a lot of faith in, that they really truly know the sport that they're talking about, like you guys, when you come on, I hear you talk. It's literally like I want to go to the window and bet the games that we're talking about, and it helps me with those 2 guys because I tweak one guy out, one guy in my DraftKings. That made all the world difference.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't talk about Harris English on any of the shows, but that was from my models. It just happened to be one of the 6 guys. It wasn't it wasn't like betting a guy to win the tournament. It wasn't betting a guy in a matchup. But anyway, that's all I got. So now it'll be 6 months now till I make it that high again in the DraftKings or even cash now that betting guys are pissed off.
It shouldn't be. It should be hard to accomplish those kind of things. Shouldn't do it every night. Every weekend should be something you can take out of your drawer, unwrap, and like an old piece of gum, you can chew on it again 6 months later. It's good stuff.
I bet you I wish I would have had a picture of my face looking at my phone and realizing, like, what? How could it be 134th? It has to be like 25th. I've been cheated.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
I could
worst
tell some
part,
stories like that.
is rooting for it and thinking
Some
you
good
won.
stories. Good. It'll be a good story, John. It's a good
And
story.
the best thing about foreign substances, and I'll leave you a thought, and then we'll sign off,
Right.
is that if you play golf, even if you go to a driving range, like Rob
tack.
Veno doesn't play golf, so
Use
he can
tack.
go to one of these driving range,
Yep.
and this guy next to you that's slicing the hell out of the ball, and another guy shanking it, and there's one simple remedy to make the ball go straight every time, and you take a little Vaseline, put it underneath your hat here, rub your thumb, and then act like you're cleaning the face of the club, swing, and whatever angle that club face is at contact, that ball will go in that direction straight.
Ah.
Is that legal on the PGA Tour?
Only if you don't get caught.
Oh, then it's legal.
It's similar to Major League Baseball.
Okay. All right then.
No,
I'll remember
nobody
that.
would ever do that on the PGA Tour. I mean, that would be like I don't even know what that would be like. I mean, that would be a pitcher coming out of the bullpen carrying a wide array of foreign substances in a box so that he can pick and choose which one's going to work the best.
I was a pretty good golfer at one time, and I would go to the driving range in Arizona with my flip flops. Okay, and I would outdrive. People would be next to me, and there'll be guys mad. Who would say, "How can you do that? How can you come up here in your flip flops, hit the ball straight like that, and outdrive me while I got all my shoes and I got my illegal ball and so there you go." But what they don't know is this: when you wear flip flop, I did it on purpose because I was taught that, and those who play golf, put some flip flops on. Go out and hit your driver, and you'll find that you don't use as much. You use more your hips. You don't move your legs much because you can't. You'll slide everywhere. So you really almost keep yourself. It forces you to be still, to keep your body still like you're supposed to on a swing anyway. So that's my golf story for the day. And
that's a very good one too.
And I'm sticking to that story.
It keeps you from pulling over the top too.
Yes, sir.
Because you can't.
Yeah. Right.
Because you don't have any traction.
Nope.
All right. Well, it's great to have you guys back together on the show. I guess I don't want to call us the Three Amigos. We'll have to come up with our stage name. What did Manny
Two parole
Maris
officers
for
and the parolee.
I'll put that in consideration.
2 parole officers and parolee.
We probably need to think a little bit longer on it, but Mickey Mantle and Maris were the M&M boys, so
that's true. That's how they came up with the name of that candy, M&M's.
Yeah. So RVF, I mean, it doesn't sound very good. RV and F, boys? No.
Sounds like an oil or something.
It does. So, like an illegal substance, maybe.
Well, that'll be okay. That'll be okay.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. As long as we can profit off of it like Major League Baseball would.
Who would have a good idea is Las Vegas Chris. So we'll contact him, consult him.
He was here. He was here talking about some soccer game for a while. I had to get rid of him.
All right, Total Borrow, guys.
All right,
4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Full slate of shows tomorrow. And can't wait for that day to even get started, even now as I sit here. But for Tony Finn, Rob Veno, myself, the Predictive Playbook, WagerTalk.com, and SportsMemo.com, may all the wins be yours.